Welcome to another Wisdom podcast. We have Connie White Delaney with us. She is Dean of the University of Minnesota School of Nursing. We're going to talk about healthcare, nursing research, nursing education, nursing informatics, and leading with love in the age of AI. So it's going to be a fun conversation today. This convo is brought to you by podfire.com. That is my podcasting agency. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcast or monetize a podcast, you can go to podfire.com. Connie, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays?
Well, thank you, Charles, and I very much look forward to our conversation today. When you mentioned what I look forward to, I absolutely welcome, celebrate, and have gratitude for every day. What I look forward to is each of those days is filled with relationship. Each of those days gives, whether it's me or the persons I'm interacting with, an opportunity to, if you might say, move things forward for humanity and the fullness of the life we're in. I happen to be in health, excuse me?
And do good.
And do good. That's exactly right. And although all walks of life contribute to that, it's quite a gift to be in nursing, in education, and healthcare. It affects absolutely every person's life. All of them do. So what an opportunity to work in partnership with others to, as you say, do good, or one might say, live in love or live in purpose.
Exactly, love that. My two grandmothers were nurses. Nurses take care of the wounded and the sick. They attend to this part of society, which is every one of us, quite literally. You've been in that field your whole career, quite literally. What are stories of you basically overcoming great challenges and basically saving lives?
You know, Charles, when you asked that question about saving lives, in my practice, I was an intensive care nurse. So I think there are two stories, brief stories I would bring forward. One was the very first patient I ever met. I was a student nurse. He was a 60-some-year-old gentleman. He was a farmer from the Midwest in the United States. And he had a stroke. And instantaneously, while he lived, he couldn't talk. And being in presence with him, seeing such a vibrant man, his mind working very fast, and having no way, he couldn't write, because of course he was paralyzed. He couldn't talk. And having no way to get out the thoughts and feelings he was having. So I share that. Eventually he lived, eventually he went to rehabilitation, and eventually he acquired some skill to write simply, not talk very much. And another story so when you think about life and death, isn't that an interesting view of both life and death? In some ways, the death of the former self, and then who's this new person? A second story I'll just briefly share is working with a gentleman who had experienced a gunshot. He's brought into ICU, and we are just running units and units and units of blood in. It is coming out as fast as we put it in. And he was still conscious. And in just a matter of 30 seconds to 60 seconds, most of the people, or all the people in the room, left. I knew what that meant. And he was still looking as you and I look at each other. And he said, "Am I dying?" And I'm standing there with him. I didn't leave the room. I wanted to be with him. And of course, the question is inside me, are you going to be truthful? And as we were looking at each other and holding the hand, I said, yes, and I'm here with you. And so that I say that it always stays in me. I see him right now. And I share that because when you mention this life and death, these are two very different stories, aren't they?
Wow, that got me right there. So you accompanied him on the other side, did you?
Yes,
Wow.
on the transition, did not leave him alone.
It's sad because you're basically a stranger to him, but it's also beautiful because it reflects how humans are deep inside of us, where we can have this very profound connection with anyone because we're humans, right? And we share these emotions. And I guess this transitioned pretty well into the next topic, which is artificial intelligence, which doesn't have much emotion as of now. And your book, Leading with Love. How does one lead with love and leverage these common emotions that we have for communications purposes?
So again, thank you for that profound question. I would like to link it with your comments related to this life-death question. I'm going to make a comment about nursing first. There's a profound gift in nursing that even when you say, I'm a nursing student, the second you say that, almost everyone you encounter, immediately there's that sense of intimacy. There's that intimacy that just is there. It's like a gift. And people tell their stories. They just open up. So one of the aspects of nursing that I celebrate is that this profound gift you didn't earn. You made a decision to come into nursing, and here you are. And then to bridge that out farther, I also find that when that gift happens, no matter who we are as human beings, we need to be there. Like I'm thinking right now, we've only known each other for a matter of minutes, and we're sharing very profound thoughts and some feelings with one another. And that to me means I am open to embrace you as a full human being, as you are to embrace me. So how does that relate to artificial intelligence and leading with love? I'm going to start with leading with love. Leading with love is a practice. It's a leadership practice, a way of being with one another. And a fundamental characteristic of that is to be vulnerable, present, and transparent of thought, feeling, and also actions. And as you mentioned, AI doesn't have that. So one of the gifts of AI and also the opportunities of AI is, the gift is it helps us, one might say, process and synthesize and such massive amounts of more like cognitive information. It also is a risk, a call for you and me and everybody to remember what it isn't. And that is the feelings you talk about, this whole inner world that goes beyond feelings, as you were mentioning, the bridge. And when we remember that, the invitation is for us to come into partnership with AI, remembering we are an incarnate human being. AI is a creation, and in partnership, we can come to the better, if you might say, ways of being and fostering good. And we do that by bringing the call of leading with love to not only our engagement with AI, but with everybody and every organization, because it fundamentally calls for keeping your head and heart connected. It calls for authenticity and transparency and the courage to join together, sometimes on the easier things and sometimes on the very hard challenges, but we work together to co-create this better world. I was going to say for humanity, but as you know, it goes beyond that. It's all of life and our planet.
Right. It seems that in this man's world, IQ has a lot of space, and it's definitely the case. In my world, this year, for example, I over leverage IQ and kind of let go of EQ. Had my wedding, we're moving to this new house, so lots of events that require money, require rationality. And I think if IQ is kind of quantity, EQ is probably quality in some sense. And I'm just wondering if scaling IQ will really lead humanity in the right direction, because I mean, that's how I have a light over my head. That's why I have food and shelter, most likely. What's the role of EQ in this IQ dominated world?
First of all, congratulations on your wedding. And second, I want to thank you too for describing how human beings tend to be in the majority of the thought of the IQ. We have some, I'm going to say remnants, but I only say that because they're small and for the most part isolated examples in this earth of indigenous people who maintained the I and E in relationship to the earth. And to go back to your question more specifically, how I experience that, maybe you do too, is my first call to every breath I take is being centered and anchored in my purpose for being here. And when I do that, I keep my head and heart connected then, my I and my E. And every word I use, every action I take, a decision, it's all about keeping the I and the E together. Or how I like to express that is the I am, we are. On a broader scale, it captures that core and it captures my inner relationship with the other, which really isn't the other. We're all humans in this together.
Do you think that has a role in today's separated society, as we're seeing in the US, for example, lots of conflict on one side and the other? Why are we going in that direction, and what could be potential solutions to head in a more harmonious and scalable direction?
So when you say this situation, and the US is one very dominant example right now of, one might say, so much harm or not the healthiest ways of being, either for an individual or with each other. I have a couple different ways of looking at that, Charles. One is, first of all, when people feel not safe, meaning also not the security of love, because love is about knowing and being accepted and transparent and all of these characteristics. So when that is absent, people don't feel secure. They move into fear. And so what I see us really experiencing in the United States is there is a lot of fear. And we're seeing that in AI too. There are chunks of people that are rah, 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 and use it and it'll be the magic formula, which is as dangerous as, because you don't embrace, if you will, the duality of all situations. So I'll unravel that just a little bit. The violence, et cetera, we're seeing in the United States, the intolerance for diversity and all. One could say that that comes from not feeling safe. In AI, adopting it, thinking it's the magic solution to all of our problems, also, in a way, is seeking security. Not that you have it, but let's not deal with the challenging sides. Let's not deal with the duality. Let's go for it and frankly live in a magical world. There's another way that I look at particularly what is happening in actually both of these areas, with the violence, et cetera, in the United States, or with this, one might say, unexamined adoption of AI. And that is that there are people where that way of being needs to flush out. There are people like you, and I love interacting with the newer, younger generations. They have a discernment and they have a commitment to, I might not be in a very good world right now, but I'm going to create a better one. So I celebrate those views, and consequently, the more that I can foster that, and where we're all part of us, in that way, I can tolerate, accept, and I'm going to say, flushing out of this negative, harmful stuff. And I'm thinking that, it's kind of like if two people have a conflict. You can face the disagreement and flush it out, or you can gloss over it. To the degree you can face it, you grow, even if it might be painful. So I think those are the choices we're making day in, day out.
These emotions that simmer in us and in the society, how can we gain a stronger awareness of them and knowledge of them, embodiment of them, so that we can have a more mature and controlled reaction to stressful events that surround us?
Yeah, that's a complicated question. And it kind of goes back to your EQ. We have emotions, I'm thinking, what's the difference between a feeling and an emotion? And I tend to think, as a human being, I want to feel all I can ever feel. Whether I'm out running, I'm out enjoying nature, I'm on a lake or the ocean, or I'm sitting here with you. I want to feel the fullness of that interaction of two or more human beings. Emotion tends to come in when I'm attaching some judgment, value, or something or other with it. So in Connie's everyday life, how I live, and by the way, I don't separate my personhood and my professional. I'm always one person. So I'm not a divided person.
Same here.
And when I experience that, and I feel that, I'm going to call it that emotional part, I pause, either in the moment or later, and I want to dissect, or what I might say is I want to welcome what was going on in there. And like I do, most of that comes from inside us, old stuff that was in there. The emotion does.
Yeah, it's like if it's solidified, right, from our childhoods and stuff that our parents taught us, and sometimes it's trauma. And I guess it's working through that trauma and reopening or pulling out the Band-Aid, and gain some exposure to some nasty bacteria, but you have an immune system that will protect you and eventually have it fully heal. What do you have to say to the next generation of students, Connie?
I love them. The next generation of students. I want to say, join. First of all, thank you for being here. Second, treasure your vision of how the world, you want the world to be, and one filled of love and respect for one another. Treasure it. And team up with people like me who look older than you, and age-wise I am, and yet in my head and heart, I'm one of you. And because of life experience, I do have some experiences and learnings to share, to support, and if you might say, mentor your unfolding and your leadership. That's what I say.
Love it. Where can people find out more about you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I have email. That's all available on LinkedIn, on Google. The Leading with Love website, Connie White Delaney, has more information. I love connections, which you know, and it's all about us connecting, and being empowering one another. Non-ego, empowering through the love of one another, respect and honoring one another, that we will change this world.
Love it. That was Connie W. Delaney and Charles Corbier as your host of the Wisdom Podcast.